know anyone doing extreme caregiving? Is it you? This means not only are you dealing with the speech or language delays as we talk about on this podcast, but you add to that other complex care. When your parenting has been altered by severe disability, your life changes dramatically. Today's guest, Jessica Patay, is a caregiver advocate and community builder. She uses storytelling to shout the worth of caregivers and caregiving. Even if you are not an extreme caregiver, this is a wonderful episode that will change you and your perspective. With Mother's Day coming up, let this be a salute to all you mamas. You will be glad you listened. As a reminder, on Monday, we have a free webinar from the Language of Play for you at 10 a.m. Central Time. Does your child have a speech-language delay and you really want them to talk? Do difficult behaviors derail home life and you know the frustration is a communication struggle? Does your child see a speech therapist and you wonder, what do they do and how can I help? If these or similar questions are in your mind, this podcast is for you. Hello, my name is Dinalynn Rosenbusch. I am a speech-language pathologist that has worked with children from birth to 21 for 3 decades. And in my classrooms, I see you wanting to connect with the heart of your child, but their speech and language skills create a barrier. So if you have a kiddo that has difficult behaviors, needs to expand their language or learn to say speech sounds, and maybe even receives speech therapy, stay tuned, because in this podcast, you will learn how to use your daily life as a tool to communication practice and how to do that practice. You will become confident knowing you are making the difference you want to make. And you will hear success stories of parents who have navigated these struggles already. We'll do this all while focusing on building deep, meaningful connection and confidence in your kiddo. So grab a cup of coffee along with a notebook and pen. It's time to speak in the way your child's brain understands. And that is the language of play. Hello listeners, if you haven't heard, we are doing our first webinar here at the Language of Play. As parents, we know that strong foundations are the key to our children's success. And when it comes to speech and language development, those foundations start with listening skills. Did you know that having strong listening skills are the foundation for building language? And when I say language, this means understanding, talking, even reading, and more. Join us in our upcoming free webinar, Beyond Obedience, Unveiling the Power of Listening in Kids, as we explore how to lay this crucial foundation or fill the gaps if you have some. Secure your spot now by clicking the link in the show notes below. And mark your calendar for Monday, that's this Monday, May 13th, because that is the day after Mother's Day. And so if you are listening in the States, happy Mother's Day to you. This is information I wish all parents knew. So invite your friends to participate. It's happening in just 5 days. Sign up below. And now, let's start today's episode. All right, listeners, thank you for joining us today. Today, we have a wonderful guest, Jessica Patay. She is the founder and executive director of We Are Brave Together, author of Becoming Brave Together, and host of Brave Together podcast. Jessica, welcome to the Language of Play. I am so glad you're here today, and I must admit, I read a bunch of your book, and it is fabulous. So tell us what inspired you to write this book.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to be here. What inspired me to write this book was just the incredible moms that I get to be around all the time and engage with through We Are Brave Together. And I'm a writer. I'm a lover of words. I've been sharing and oversharing and storytelling, truth-telling for many, many years. And I wanted to give an opportunity to other moms who are also in the trenches of altered motherhood, as I call it, to share their voice, to describe what their caregiving lives are like. And I wanted a variety of diagnoses represented and ages of kids represented. And I thought, what better way than to put it together in an anthology?
It's really, really well done because these stories are short. It helps me to get a glimpse into what it's like for the various people. And it helps us see beyond our own story and see other stories. So that was fantastic. You used the term altered motherhood just now and also in your book. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Yes. So I think of, typical motherhood. Like I started off with my first child, Luke, who's now 23, and there were no diagnoses, there were no hospitalizations, there were no medical issues. And I just call it, it's typical motherhood. Are there highs and lows? Yes. Are there days you want to pull your hair out? Yes. Is it hard? Yes. But when you have a child in which a diagnosis has been delivered or diagnoses have been delivered, it alters your motherhood experience because you're mom and you're a caregiver. You get to be a parent and a caregiver. And you're also grappling with a complete shift in your world when you thought you were kind of headed down one path and now you're headed down another path, and you have to shift your expectations. You have to shift your priorities. You have to shift your plans. And so it's an altered motherhood journey. It's different from what you expected, maybe what you wanted, maybe what you hoped and dreamed for. And it's just a very different world, caretaking alongside parenting.
That is a very, very big shock to the system when you have those kind of diagnoses. Mm-hmm. Would you tell our listeners who might not be familiar with you a bit of your story?
Sure.
It's a phenomenal story.
Thank you so much. So I've been married to my husband for almost 3 decades, which is crazy. We celebrated 27 years today. Thank you, Chris.
Congratulations. Happy anniversary.
Thank you. And we have 3 kids. Luke is 23. Brian is almost 21. And I say Brian is the one who made me a caregiver. He was born with severely low muscle tone. We spent a month in the hospital not knowing why he couldn't suck, why he couldn't cry, why he didn't hardly move. And he was diagnosed at 5 weeks of age with a rare genetic disorder called Prader-Willi syndrome. And then I have a daughter who is 18. Ryan's diagnosis, I always say there's no cocktail party answer to explain it, but low muscle tone contributes to all milestones, gross motor, fine motor, and speech being delayed. Ryan didn't walk till he was 3. He's been on growth hormones since he was a baby because that is the only medication right now indicated for PWS. And in childhood, if PWS makes the news, it's because in childhood, there's an insatiable food drive that kicks in. So Ryan's brain and body do not tell him that he's had any food. And that coupled with underlying anxiety and obsessiveness leads to food-seeking behavior that is life-threatening, which is what I write about in the introduction. So we live with a vigilance to protect him because kids and adults with the syndrome do eat themselves into a medical emergency or premature death every year. So we live with a locked kitchen. Ryan is also affected, academically, cognitively. He's in the transition program with our school district for 1 more year till he's 22, and then we will exit, which I don't even want to talk about that. It feels very scary, but we'll figure it out. But he's also a sweetheart. He's my greatest teacher alongside Luke and Kate. He has the biggest heart. He always says about any We Are Brave event that I'm doing, did the moms feel loved? Did the moms feel loved? So he's pretty amazing and difficult.
Amazing and difficult. Yes, I can appreciate that. So your journey through this food insatiability, I would imagine, was really stumping. Did you expect that was going to be a part of it or not when you learned his diagnosis?
Well, does anybody expect that feature to be a part of anyone's life? It's crazy. When we got the diagnosis, thankfully early, and we read about it, it's such a crazy mix of symptoms. You've got intellectual disability, you've got, delays in gross motor skills and fine motor skills and speech, and you've got, coming behaviors and anxiety and this insatiable food drive. It's just crazy. There's also other medical issues. Ryan has asthma. Other kids have more medical issues. He also had scoliosis, which he had a spinal fusion for in 2019. And it's just crazy. I mean, honestly, our jaws were on the ground. Like, how is this crazy mix of symptoms all part of one syndrome?
Yeah, well, that's what syndrome is, isn't it? a mix of symptoms. Yeah. How do your other children handle their role in the family when
Mm.
you've got so much going into Ryan?
Well, I mean, all of Kate and Luke's growing up, I was so worried that they would grow up resentful and angry and just, with their scars. And yes, there are scars. We were definitely intentional as parents to have one-on-one dates, to have vacations without Ryan, to attend to them. But there's nothing that you can do as a parent that will ever make up for the time, energy, and attention that goes to one or two kids in the family who have diagnoses. So we talk about it. One thing we didn't do that I absolutely recommend is family therapy from a young age. We didn't do it in the early years. And then by the time I really wanted to, it was no, no, no for my teens. And then the last few years, we did do some family therapy, and it was extremely helpful. It gave them a voice to share their complaints, their criticisms, their hurts. And was it easy to hear that? No. But it's really important to talk about all these things. There's definitely more I wish I would have talked about as they were growing up. I wish I would have said, you have a voice in this family. Your voice, your needs, your wants, your hurts matter. You have a voice, and I am not a mind reader. So I'm asking you to please share. Do not tuck it away because you think I have too much on my plate to handle what you need and what you want. So that's advice I would definitely give parents, is to remind that the siblings have a voice and that they're allowed to use their voice.
I'm going to highlight that. You have to tell the other children in the family, the ones that are non-disabled children, that you have a voice in this family. Your needs, your wants, and your voice all matter. Beautiful. All right, so now why did you write this book now?
Well, doing what I do in leading We Are Brave together, I'm highly aware of how many systems are broken in this country. I'm highly aware that moms are at risk for burnout, which is why I started We Are Brave together. I'm highly aware of moms' isolation and loneliness. And I knew that if we birthed this into the world, that it could have some beautiful repercussions. One, it gives voice to all these writers. It validates the caregiving journey. So any caregiver who picks this up, they're going to see themselves in the stories, even if the diagnoses are different. There are themes and emotions and experiences that are universal. This book, I hope, will get into the hands and hearts of family and friends. And when you read 22 stories, as opposed to just hearing one person's story, it can have a great impact. And so maybe it will move people to help more, to support us more. And I don't mean just in babysitting or caretaking, but maybe take some things off of our to-do list that are relentless: laundry, a meal, grocery shopping, running to the pharmacy. Maybe they'll offer to take siblings out on special dates. There's so many ways to help support a caregiver, so many ways. And so we hope that this book will inspire more help, because we're drowning. We are drowning. And, I have a great supportive husband. We can hire babysitters. We also have respite hours through the state. Most people in the disability, medically complex mental health community, they don't have all this extra resources to access to keep them afloat. And everyone deserves help and services and support and respite. And it's just not across the country like it should be.
Yeah. How would you define? I mean, I read enough of the book to know how you define it. Yet, I would like you to tell our listeners the difference between caregiving, which is what we're doing with our kids all the time, and you're using the word caregiving, but in your book, you're actually talking about extreme caregiving.
Mm-hmm.
Can you make that differentiation for our listeners that have not yet read your material?
When I talk about extreme caregiving, what I mean is you're living with an intense vigilance to keep your child safe. Now, okay, mothers of littles who are hearing this, yes, I know that's kind of the way it is with babies and toddlers and preschoolers, and you cannot let them out of your sight. And there are so many physical needs in the early years. But this is a need. These are needs that don't expire as our kids age. It's 24/7 care, safety management, psychological management, medical management for the rest of their lives.
That's extreme.
So that's extreme. And you're just on is the phrase that I say. You're on. I feel the tension as soon as I walk in my house because it's almost 21 years of being on, being vigilant, being a caretaker, making sure the kitchen is locked, make sure Ryan's okay. It's not the same as it is with my other two.
Right. Yeah, and that is extreme. Now, if we have listeners that think, oh man, I would love to get your book because I am feeling like this is extreme for whatever reason, where would they find your book?
Thanks for asking. They can find it on Amazon. Look up Becoming Brave Together and it will pop up. We have a paperback and we have a digital. And if you love it and if you are touched by it, please leave us a review and a rating.
That's fantastic. And if our guests want to get a hold of you so that they can learn more or maybe become part of your tribe, because I know that there are many listeners that would fall into this category in my listenership at the Language of Play. Not all of the people that listen here just have the simplest forms of speech and language delay. They come shopping for help and they land here. So I'm really glad you're here. And for those people that really want to be part of the Becoming Brave Together network, where would you prefer them to find you?
Well, they can join We Are Brave Together by going to our website, wearebravetogether.org. You can follow us on Instagram at We Are Brave Together. Feel free to send a message to us that way. We have a secret Facebook group that you can be a part of, and we can help you get into that. And we also have a Facebook page that you can certainly follow along. But I would say Instagram is the best, and go to our website, see everything that we're offering.
Perfect. And I will have those links in the show notes for you and for any of your listeners that are here. Now, we have Mother's Day coming up, and your book just came out in time for Mother's Day. I think that I'll let you speak for yourself, but it sounds like it is a salve and a gift to mamas. Yeah, can you talk about your motivation for choosing this time?
Well, because at We Are Brave Together, we are all about moms. We are mom-centric. And we thought, perfect, let's release it in time for Mother's Day so that moms could buy this gift for themselves, see themselves in these stories and feel so validated and so seen. And we hope that other people will buy this book for other moms. I mean, I think all moms, all parents should read this book, not just caregiving parents.
You know, after reading it, I would say yes, because it sure opened my eyes to what it is that many people are dealing with on a day in, day out basis in areas I had never thought about. You know, I think about communication development as my background, right. You know, speech pathology, but you talked about medical things and a lot of things that I just hasn't, I mean, I know it's out there, just hasn't really been on my radar. So it was very awakening for me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I mean, that is what we want. We want people's hearts and minds to be open in a way that they weren't open before because now they've read these 22 stories.
Well, it's a glorious piece of artwork. Your people that contributed to the book did a fine job of making it super readable. It just takes you on a journey. It was a very enjoyable read. Thank you, Jessica, for coming here today and pouring into our listeners and offering them a Mother's Day present.
Aw, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I really cherish any opportunity to talk about this book, to talk about We Are Brave, to talk about our podcast. It's just thank you.
You're welcome. And I want to thank you, too, for being so vulnerable. I know that you say, you know, your stories are an oversharing, but I think that's exactly why you've hit on people's feelings and thoughts and emotions. They can relate because you were willing to be vulnerable. So thank you for being open that way too.
Thank you. You are so welcome. You are so welcome.
A reminder to you listeners, click in the show notes below for the free webinar on Monday, May 13th at 10 a.m. Central Time, Beyond Obedience, Unveiling the Power of Listening Skills in Kids. And I look forward to seeing you there. Hey parents, I hope you found this episode helpful. If so, would you please take 30 seconds and share it with a friend who also lives or works with children? I would really appreciate it if you would leave a quick review for the show on Apple Podcasts. I read every review, and it lights me up to know that this show is making a difference. Then come join my Facebook community, where you'll meet other parents who are dedicated to helping their children grow too. You'll find the link in the show notes. Thank you for joining me. Now it's time to go. Let's pop our kiddos in the strollers and go look around outdoors and see what we have to talk about.